No, that's really fascinating about your mom and living in the South. I think that's
Yes.
absolutely fascinating. And yeah, I think that builds up resilience when you're like
Yes.
in multiple different worlds. Yeah, I grew up in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, my entire life. Went to school there. I was in a middle class family. And yeah, I grew up in 1991, which was the year where I think it was like the first democratically elected president and was like deposed. And then I left in 2004, which was doing another coup d'etat.
Right.
Um, and I felt like my experiences in Haiti, I had a lot of questions in me around why did I grew up in this certain way. And I think studying international relations, first I wanted to do business, but I didn't really do so hot in college algebra. College algebra got the best of me.
Right.
So I went into international relations, and international relations was I had those entrepreneurial endeavors, but international relations was sort of a space for me to find answers to those questions that I had about my childhood, about why, about the violence. Like, how can there be so much violence despite all the beauty and the rich history that Haiti has as a nation? Like, what are the complexities of slavery? What about race and all of those different processes? And I felt like most of my classes didn't really answer those questions. It sort of talked about international relations in terms of nation states engaging each other, the economy, these very like Western construct, though can be valid at some stage, but I
Right.
felt like on an individual level, it didn't really resonate with me. So, but there's a few classes I did and it pushed me towards peace building.
That's good.
But yeah, and I think a lot of it was like I was part of an organization called Coming to the Table and led that organization, became the national president, which were the whole organization was started by Black and white descendants of the enslaved from the same slave plantation, and they came together to talk about the history, like how do we heal from the intergenerational trauma of slavery, and how
Right.
does it impact today. Sort of was a truth and reconciliation organization, and it spreads today around. I'm no longer as involved, but it spreads in like I think 20 something states.
Oh,
But yeah,
wow.
so a lot of my theories in terms of storytelling, in terms of writing, was really, I feel like it's the whole almost a Steve Jobs quotes about your life doesn't really make sense in the moment, but when you look backwards, you see how the dots strangely connect. So I
Right.
think all of my dots moving and coming to the US and navigating the US space, I felt like has led me here. And I think my work in California is really like, how do I embrace the arts and media, and how do I create cultural movements that can really impact the world? Because I wholeheartedly believe that like we are at its stage of crisis and revolution in terms of people are just fed up with the way things have been done. And we have leaders around the world that act like they know what they're doing, but they're just kind of following the rule books that is extremely outdated because
Yes.
like every 5 years you have new technologies, new things. Like it's like our society is evolving at an exponential rate and we're still operating under like a 19th, like 15th century enlightenment ideals around what it means to be human and what is rational and what is truth and materialism. So I feel like the work at Syllable is really how do we create fictional universes, like new completely imaginative spaces that will stretch who we are of what is possible. So and I feel like cosmological constructions are so like they're not explored as much. And I think if you're part of like a space that's doing the world building and creating that works of fiction, I feel like it really changes the way you view the world. I think you're right. It grows empathy, it grows resilience, it allows you to connect with things you would otherwise connect. Because I think I was having a conversation with a friend a couple of weeks ago with two friends, and it was around empathy. And I felt like one of the reflections was because I was in pain, wasn't able to connect with different levels of empathy.
Right.
I feel like you have to find that healing and you have to find that connectedness or the words, the unknown words to your imagination. Or like, it's like, there's things that you, that don't, things that you, someone says it like, wow, I never really thought about it that way. I never really understood it that way. I wanted to say this my entire life, but I didn't have the words. I think that's literally exactly what's happening inside people.
Yes.
Is that we are multidimensional beings and we just don't have the words. The operating model of our current society does not allow us to express.
And people are afraid to change. I think that's part of it. I mean, it's normal, but yeah, they're afraid. And that's why I worry a little bit about the kids that are going through this right now. They're like you mentioned, that the way that the teaching method is pretty outdated. And it really bugs me. My sister's a 8th grade teacher, but it bugs me that all these kids are diagnosed. They're diagnosed with ADD, right? Well, I probably would have been one of those kids because I was one of those creative kids, right? But I think you got to let them, as a kid, they need to run around. You know, they don't allow like recess much, Fabrice. You know, and they need to run around and get that energy out. And I think they see things differently at 5. You know what I'm saying? They're more intuitive. They see it, but then they get in these constructs that I don't know. It's just, I agree with you. I worry about the generation. People just need to be more open to change. And we got to have conversations like this. And I'm so glad what you're saying. But it's so helpful. And that's probably why I connect with you. And I'm like, he would be perfect. Talk about what he's doing, because we need to talk about this more. And it's just stressful in general. I couldn't imagine having kids younger now. My sons are adults now. But I was very I had help raising my kids. I had to travel a lot. I just can't imagine trying to do that now. It's that's why I have empathy for mothers.
Totally, yeah.
Or just caregivers in general. And then we just need to, I'm just blabbing here. The empathy.
No, I think you're right.
I think what you're doing is so